There's some big news that's recently occurred in the Township of Langley, and that is the separation of utility fees from your property taxes. If you live in the township, you probably already know this, and if you live in the area, I'm sure you've seen articles. However, if this is news to you, then pay attention. So whether you already knew about it or it's news to you, you're probably wondering, well, what does this actually mean for me? The good news for you is that you're in the right place, because in this video, I'm going to break it all down for you, explain the changes, the reasons behind them, and what you need to do to stay on top of things. So let's get right into it. Starting in 2025, the Township of Langley will be issuing separate utility statements for water, sanitary sewer, and garbage collection. This means that the costs associated with these services, which were previously bundled into your annual property tax bill, will now be billed separately. It's a significant shift, however, it's definitely about time, as the majority of other municipalities do it this way, so it is understandable if you do have questions. The most immediate question you might have is, why? Why make this change now? The township has stated that the primary goal is to provide greater clarity regarding utility usage and costs. By separating these fees, residents will be able to see exactly how much they're paying for water, sewer, and garbage services. This transparency allows for better understanding of where your money is going and can potentially encourage more conscious consumption. Another reason cited by the township is to align with the billing practices of other municipalities. Many other cities and towns, as I already mentioned, already handle utility billing separately from property taxes. By making this change, Langley is bringing its practices in line with the standard municipal procedures. Previously, one of the biggest distinctions between Langley City and the Langley Township is how they're governed in tax. Langley City operates as an independent municipality with its own mayor and council, responsible for its own local bylaws, property taxes, and infrastructure. The primary difference with Langley City is that, like 95% of the other municipalities, they separate utilities such as garbage collection, water, and sewer charges from the annual tax bill, and they're paid separately. Just to give you an example of what things previously looked like, in Langley City, if you had property taxes that were $3,000, you would then also have a variable number for your utilities, but it's just reported as $3,000 for property taxes. If you've ever been curious about why there's so much variance between the property taxes in Langley City and Langley Township, well, this essentially is it. For example, on two identical properties in Langley City, the property taxes, for instance, would be $3,000 plus the variable for however much utilities are. Now, conversely, with the Langley Township, they actually include the utility costs into their reporting. So when a township homeowner gets their tax bill for an equivalent value home, it could likely be $3,800 to $4,000 because it includes these utilities. And here's a quick example that I have for you with two condos of almost equivalent value based on their BC assessments, yet the one in Langley City's property taxes were right around $2,265, while the one in the township was about $3,400. So this is just something to keep in mind. Now, let's talk about the specifics of this new billing system. Starting in spring 2025, you'll receive a separate utility statement in the mail. The statement will cover the period from January 1st to December 31st of the year. It's important to note that the 2025 property tax statements, which will be mailed out in late May as usual, will not include these utility fees. This means you'll have two separate bills to manage, your property tax bill and your utility bill, just like everybody else. As previously mentioned, the utility statement will cover water and sanitary sewer services, as well as garbage collection as applicable to your property. It's also important to understand that residential properties are charged an annual flat rate for the utility services. This means that your bill will be based on a fixed amount rather than on your actual usage. Currently, there is no option for metered utilities in the Langley Township. One of the key things that you need to pay attention to is the due date for your utility bill. The township has emphasized that property owners are responsible for ensuring the payment is received by the due date to avoid penalties. Once the due dates and rates are finalized, they'll be posted on the township's website and communicated through social media and e-newsletters. So make sure you're following the township's official channels to stay informed. Now, let's address some of the frequently asked questions that have been coming up. One of the most common questions is about pre-authorized debit plans. If you're currently on a pre-authorized debit plan for your property taxes, you'll need to set up a separate pre-authorized payment for your utility bill. The existing pre-authorized plan for property taxes will not cover the new utility fee. Another common question is, what happens if your mortgage company pays your property taxes? In this case, you'll need to inform your mortgage company about the separate utility bill. They'll need to adjust their payment process to ensure that both your property taxes and your utility fees are paid on time. If you prepay your property taxes through online banking, you'll also need to be aware that these prepayments will not cover your utility fees. Once again, you'll also need to make a separate payment for your utility bill. And what about if you're selling your property? Well, if you're in the process of selling your property, or if you plan to sell in the near future, you'll need to ensure that all utility payments are up to date. This is important to avoid any complications during the sale process. You might also be wondering about the available payment options. The township will be providing various payment options for utility bills, and these will be detailed on their website. So be sure to check that out for the most up-to-date information on those options. Now, let's talk about the potential pros and cons of this change. One of the primary advantages is, as mentioned earlier, increased transparency. By separating utility fees, residents will have a clearer understanding of how much they're paying for these services. This can lead to greater awareness of consumption habits and potentially encourage more efficient use of resources. Another potential benefit is that it may make budgeting easier for some residents. Instead of paying a large lump sum for property taxes and utilities all at once in a year, you'll be making smaller, more frequent payments for your utilities. This can help to spread out the cost and make it more manageable for some households. However, there are also some potential drawbacks to consider. One of the main concerns is that it will require residents to manage an additional bill. This means keeping track of another due date, ensuring that payments are made on time. For some people, this added responsibility could be a source of stress. However, keep in mind that almost all other municipalities have to do the same thing, so it really shouldn't come as that much of a surprise. Another potential concern is that the flat rate billing system may not be fair to everyone. Residents who use less water or generate less garbage may feel that they're paying more than their fair share. Conversely, residents who use more resources may be paying less than they should. It's also worth noting that this change could potentially lead to increased costs for some residents. While the township has stated that the goal is not to increase revenue, the shift to separate billing could lead to adjustments in rates and fees. So what can you do to prepare for this change? First and foremost, stay informed. Keep an eye on the township's website, social media channels, and newsletters for updates on rates, due dates, and payment options. Second, start thinking about how you'll manage the additional bill. Will you set up pre-authorized payments? Will you add it to your monthly budget? Take some time to plan ahead and ensure that you're prepared for the change. Third, consider your consumption habits. Are there ways you can reduce your water usage or generate less garbage? By making small changes, you can potentially save money on your utility bill. And finally, if you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to contact the township's Revenue and Tax Collections Department. They're there to help you understand the changes and address any issues you may have. So hopefully that all made sense and this video has clarified things for you. And if you are interested in staying up to date with the City and Township of Langley, as well as learning more about all that they have to offer, I suggest you consider subscribing to my channel as I put out videos every single week. Before you get out of here, make sure you check out another video on my channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.